Hello everyone on YouTube, it's Jordan here, bringing you another video. And today, we're going to be looking at one of the best keyboards I have ever owned. Let me just turn the camera to face it. And you should be able to see it. Apologies if you can't. But I'm using my APC Mini as an indicator because it's the one furthest close to the keyboard. Yes, I'm talking about this here. Let me just put the chair in front of it. This, my friends, you've seen it you've seen it in YouTube videos, but you're about to see it in the flesh now that I've got a proper camera. This is the Yamaha PSR 8000, and it is still a big deal in 2020, even though it's 23 years old now. It came out in 1997. And you're probably asking, why is it such a big deal when there are keyboards like the PSR SX900? Well, this keyboard was the basis for all that. I mean, take a listen to some of its sounds. Got that piano sound, which is always nice to hear on keyboards. And the menu system on this keyboard, it's a lot better than that of my PSR E463. I don't have to press category buttons and stuff. So if I want, say, to go to something like, I'm on the keyboard section now, so I'm on the keyboard now, so if I wanted to go to some percussion, all I've got to do is press this button here, and I've got a list of percussion in this part. I'm in the drum section. Now these drums have never been on a single keyboard ever since the 8000. These are only exclusive to the 8000. Currently, I don't know any other keyboards that have these kind of drums on. The 740 might, but the 740 is a lot newer than the 8000. It came out in 1999. So if you want to select different drums, you can select from these buttons here at the top, or you can, manually invoke different sounds by turning the one of 8 sliders. I usually use the rightmost one. Not only do you have percussions, but this keyboard was the first keyboard to have the sound effects that we all know and love on the PSR E series. Another unique thing about this keyboard, and one that I particularly like, well, apart from its condition, bit of dust on that, but it shouldn't be a problem. Anyway, that's not what I was talking about. What makes this keyboard stand out is how this keyboard started an era of Yamaha keyboards that we all know and that most musicians love today. I'm talking about XG MIDI. Yamaha XG MIDI is an enhanced version of GM, which at the time made instruments sound realistic. To get to the XG voices, you would press this button here, and you'd get traditional GM layout. So they're not in categories. As you can see, these are higher quality versions of the original voices. I could be here all day going through all the XG voices because there's like over 400 of these. In fact, in total, there's over 800 voices on this keyboard. Now, this is not your average keyboard. This is a musical arranger. So it's more like a high-end model. So your rhythms and your voices on one section, like there are on something like the PSRE 463 over there on my right, or behind me. Instead, it's laid out in a way that I wish most keyboards were, especially low-end keyboards. So you've got your voices on this side, and if you want to go to your rhythms, you go all the way to the left of the keyboard, and there's the same buttons here for those. And just like the voices, they're split into categories. So your categories are, you've got 8-beat 1, 8-beat 2, 16-beat, ballad, rock. On the second set, you've got dance, disco, jazz, soul, dance, disco, swing and jazz, soul, and country. And then on the final step, you've got Latin, and that's march and waltz. No, ballroom, march and waltz, user groove style, and user styles. And those last categories allow you to create your own styles or edit the existing styles, because this keyboard allows you to edit styles. And here are your controls. I haven't tried all of these yet because I'm still a newbie when it comes to this keyboard, but not too much. I know most of these though. This button here though in the middle is your style creator. To the left of it is to the right of it is the button used to change your accompaniment. So how do the styles sound? Well, unbelievably good. I mean, for a keyboard released in 1997, the styles on this keyboard are unbelievably good. This is the successor to the PSR 7000, by the way. And yet the PSR 7000 has much clearer sounds. But saying that, the thing that makes the styles on this keyboard unique, unlike all the other keyboards I own, is that the rhythms have two intros and endings. I'll give you an example. Let's go to one of the jazz styles. So, again, this is the jazz. Got our list of jazz. Let's just choose one. We'll go for this one, Dixieland. So that's the rhythm, but the accompaniment, if I just turn that on by pressing this button here, there we go. So the first intro is this. This is the first intro. And in order to access your second intro, you have to press your fill-ins. So there are two intros and ending per variation. So the same button will activate different intros depending on the variation of the style. So if you're on variation A, you get intro and ending A. That sort of thing. So yeah, that's another reason why this keyboard still gets a soft spot in 2020. And even though it's a discontinued keyboard, I still use this as my main keyboard. even though I can't do any computer-related operations on this keyboard yet. But that's understandable, because down here, and I'm sure you can probably see this, you're looking at a floppy disk drive. This keyboard has a floppy disk drive. And what that enables you to do, well, what it enabled you to do actually, should I say, because floppy disks are a thing of the past now, although I've got a few hanging around. The disk drive allowed you to install MIDI files onto the discs, and it would read these files and play them. And Yamaha used to sell some floppy disk sets with some MIDI files on them. And the original floppy disk you get in the box of this keyboard came with some styles, mainly those that Yamaha were going to release for their upcoming PSR 730 at the time as well, because Yamaha had also released the 730, the 630, and the 530 that same year. So what could you do with a floppy disk drive? You could record your own MIDI files to the drive, play them like normal MIDI files. If your computer supported floppy disks, then the keyboard could totally do that. Pretty good. And that's what I want to show you next, actually, reading from a floppy disk drive. So I know you might not be able to see the screen, but you can see most of the keyboard. To read from a floppy disk drive, you want to go all the way down here to this button here, which says disk. You press this, flop disk light comes on, if you can see. I don't think there is a light, but you can hear the floppy disk moving, the drive. So once you hear that clicking noise, you know you've activated the disk drive. So you can do one thing. You can go ahead and play, or you can press the button above it to select a song. So that's what I'm going to do. And you select a song by turning this knob here. So let's pick one at random. And then we simply press the play button. And what you can do while the song is playing, you can transpose it with these buttons here, or you can speed it up. I'm not going to transpose it now because I'm going to show that in another step. But you can also remix the song with the mixing console, but we'll get into that in a bit. We'll get into why the mixing console is one of the best features of this keyboard. Yeah, so that's the floppy disk drive. There's a special way of putting a floppy disk in. So let me remove the disk. Oops, you have to be careful with these things. In most keyboards, I've seen floppy disks located on the left. So let's just say I've just gotten this disk out. What you want to do is you want the disk like this, as you can see here. And you want this bit here, the label, facing there. So what you're going to want to do is carefully slot the disk in. And it should click into place like this. There you go. That's how to insert a floppy disk into this drive. This is what makes this thing vintage. And the thing that makes this really cool is the fact that a single disk can hold up to 40 MIDI files. Probably even less, I think, because I don't think that these disks are actually full to the point where they can't store anything on them anymore. Right, that covers the floppy disk side. I am now going to cover the mixing console and how that works. There is so much I want to cover about this thing. So let's just get started on the mixing console. So again, let me just get out of floppy disk mode. Go back to basic keyboard operation. Even out of disk mode, the floppy disk drive is still running. It's best to wait for it to finish before you go ahead and do anything else. There you go. So how does the mixing console work then? You can probably see two buttons here on the panel. They're for cycling the modes of the mixing console. But we're just going to cover the basic functions like removing tracks off a rhythm and quietening certain stuff, because that's basically what many people use the mixing console for on the PSR 8000. So what you're going to want to do is select a random rhythm. Let's just go for this one. Folk rock. Give it an intro. So you've heard the style. What if we want to take bits off? Well, we press this button here, which is the mixing console. And you can see I've just taken the bass drum off. You can't hear the bass drum anymore. All you can hear is the tambourine. And you can see I am using the 8 knobs, the display things at the top on the display. They're specifically used for this purpose in a mixing console. So you can take bits off. So it's getting to the point now where you can only hear bass. And to reset the style, you just simply change the style that you're using. Go back to this one. This does not save changes to the style. So it returns it back to the way it was. So that covers the mixing console. And this is probably one of the reasons why the 8000 is pretty much cool. It's pretty much cool in terms of the fact that it's easy to get hold of for less than what it would originally cost. I mean, this keyboard would have originally cost £1,000 if you were to get one brand new. And yeah, I think I'm going to make this final, although I do want to bring out some honourable mentions. This keyboard has a built-in help system, and not only does the help system provide built-in help, but pressing the button that has the help, it says demo help. I press it here and press the play. You have access to 21 built-in songs, and they're actually quite good. Actually, you can change those as you would with the styles and voices. And I've showed off those before. I've showed them all off. But you can get built-in help on how to use this keyboard. So it's got a built-in manual. And finally, I want to show off the off multipads. Now, when you're playing, these allow you to add musical phrases to your playing, for those who don't know what multipads are. So right now I don't have them set. Let's just pick a set of multipads. You get some preset ones, and you also get some reason I can't get these to run. Don't know what's up with these multipads, but let's just reset that. Yeah, nothing works well on the keyboard. It's best to clear the keyboard's memory. So we now have access to the multipads. So these are the defaults you get. Don't worry, I didn't even have anything saved onto the keyboard's internal drive anyway. So all 4 of these can be played separately or together. And not all of them play little phrases. I mean, you can change the multipads banks by using these buttons here. You know I'm coming. So you've got your basic multipads, like the ones I'm showing you now. And this is where the multipads get really good. You see, this is a loop. So these can be mixed together to create something unique. So let's add another one. So as you can see, I've just added another loop. The only way to stop them is by pressing this button, which stops the sequence. You don't have to be limited to the. You don't have to be limited to your one section either. So if I want to mix loops from this section and then go back to the previous section, I can totally do that, like this. That just makes it completely unique and just makes it so convenient to do mixing. And here's me mixing all these together. So that's all of them now. And you can also interact with them the same way you would with the auto complement. So I'm going to go ahead and change that to single finger, and now I can play them the same way I would with the styles. You get the idea. You get how it works. I don't want to show you it all because there's loads of these, and you can assign you can create your own user multipads as well. You're not just limited to the built-in ones. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff as well, such as the what's it called now? Oh yeah, that's it. This keyboard was the first keyboard to introduce the vocal harmonizer. So I don't think the 7000 had it. And now I'm going to go over the physical. I'm going to do a physical examination of the keyboard, show you what makes this keyboard so fancy. So here we have the pitch bend wheel, which is used to change the pitch, as you know. The range is also can be adjusted, and to the right of it is a modulation wheel. And for some voices it actually works. Some, nah, not at all. But some musicians may have found a way to get it working. The modulation just allows you to hook it up to certain stuff. If you want to, you can hook it up to something like a PC or a Mac, and you can use the modulation wheel to control your software. Because the sounds don't, well, you can control the sounds with the modulation wheel, but it's fairly limited in what you can do. So those are the top where the pitch bend and the modulation wheel are. There's the power switch as well. Let me show you what happens when you turn the power on. So I'm going to turn it off right now. It pops up as well. So it's one of those old style pop up and pop out power switches. When you turn it on, that is normal. That noise is normal. It's the floppy disk booting up. So you've got a row of buttons here for style control and multipads. This one allows you to do fade-ins, so you can do stuff. You can do like fade-ins and stuff. You know, like when you're ending a song. As you can see, it's going quiet and quiet and quiet and quiet, and even more quieter. This is no beginner's keyboard. This is an advanced instrument for its time anyway, but it's still considered high-end. And the style just simply ends once it's reached its maximum. Once it's reached the maximum quietness, if you know what I mean. So here you get 61 full-size keys, which are touch sensitive. And the whole load of buttons here. I haven't had a chance to experiment with all of these, but you can do dual voices. You've got a sampler as well, so you can record external samples, which is probably what the microphone slot there is for, right at the very bottom here. You get a headphone jack and a microphone slot, which reminds me, let me just stand up from my chair and we'll go over to the slots. So here you have a few lining slots along with a sustain jack, auxiliary input, which is here. Next to it is the MIDI ports, which have MIDI cables connected. But there's something unique about this MIDI port. It has a to host port. Right now it's set on MIDI mode, so you can change it to these switches here. It's in MIDI mode. Turn it here, it's on RBM PC mode. Turn it here, it's on Mac mode. And here, it's for any computer. Linux, mainly. So let me turn it back on Mac mode. PC mode, MIDI mode, which basically allows the keyboard to receive MIDI. And yeah, those are the ports and stuff. You can connect all sorts of stuff to this keyboard. I think these are your speakers, I believe. Right here, you get two of those. One on the left and one on the right. And a big one, which basically gives you amazing bass. it's a bass booster. That's what it primarily serves as. And those here primarily serve as ventilators, because you can install a hard drive on this keyboard and some RAM. The RAM is primarily used for sampling purposes though, and I haven't had much of a chance to sample. Oh, that reminds me as well. This keyboard also comes with a virtual arranger. So let's find a style. Let's go to a ballad, for instance, since they're easy to understand. I'm on 16-beat. Well, yeah, we'll use the style epic ballad. This is what it sounds like normally. If I press the virtual arranger button, you get like random chords. And as far as I know, no other keyboards do it. The only other keyboard I know that does it is the Yamaha PSR 630, which came out the same year as this keyboard, as I said earlier in the video. So again, this is how it sounds normally, and this is how it would sound on the virtual arranger. Yeah, pretty nice. I like that feature. I wish they'd put it on more keyboards. So let's carry on with the physical description. Obviously, you've got your buttons here. Don't know what all these do. There's like I don't know what this switch at the left and right does. Maybe someone who's had a PSR 8000 longer than me can tell me in the comments. But it's a switch like on the right, just where this row of buttons is here. Don't know what they're supposed to do though. I think they're for your equalizer settings. And I think I accidentally pressed one. So I'm going to go ahead and reset the keyboard real quick. And that is all the PSR 8000 can do. I've showed you most of the description. Going to the far back of it though, you're probably wondering where the power jack of this keyboard is though. Fear not, because this is the power cord. It doesn't use a standard Yamaha plug like most conventional keyboards are. It uses a special plug designed only for keyboards like this one. Down here is completely bare. But you can install a hard drive inside this keyboard. And my guess is the hard drive bay is here. This is where the hard drive can be installed. And possibly the sampling RAM. So in summary, the PSR 8000, brilliant keyboard. Would I recommend it in 2020? Absolutely. Maybe an old keyboard, but for hobby musicians and professionals alike, I think we can all agree that the Yamaha PSR 8000 has its fair share of good stuff. Thank you for watching this video of the Yamaha PSR 8000. This is Jordan signing off saying have a good day everyone.